Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Turf Today, brought to you by Toro. My name is Adam Kershane. I'm joined by Brian Laurent, and this episode is being recorded on the Superintendent Network. Make sure you guys are going over to YouTube and subscribing to the Superintendent Network page. We've been uploading all the video podcasts to that channel, in addition to all of the great videos that Brian and everybody at the Superintendent Network has been able to put together. So quite a collection and definitely something to follow. Today joining us on the show is a golf course superintendent, amongst other things, and a fantastic guest for us. I'm not going to get into it too much because we have somebody that comes on quickly to talk about our guest. So look forward to that. We appreciate everybody that's been reaching out with questions and things to engage with the show. There's a lot of cool stuff coming up in the pipeline. And people ask if they can do anything to help. The biggest thing you can do is download the show, share the show with people. You know, it's a podcast, so not everybody's going to get a chance to listen to it. But if there's fun things that you hear on it or interviews that you love, then, you can send people the links and say, hey, I think you should take an hour to sit down and listen to this one. There's a lot of learning in these shows. It kills some time and it's fun, and you get to kind of learn about some of the superintendents, but there's a lot of learning about your job and your career. And we keep getting emails and messages and stuff about, I've heard this on the show, so I tried this, or, I found an avenue by listening to the show. So it can really open doors, and it can really provide a lot of different things for different people. So please share the show. Keep other people in mind when you're listening to different things and different interviews. So that's the best thing you can do. And like we said before, reach out with questions. All right, let's get this show on the road. See you guys on the other side. Turf Today is brought to you by Toro. If good things come in threes, Toro is nailing it because they're focused on the three big areas that everybody is talking about: alternative power, autonomous technology, and smart digital tools. Toro has battery-powered mowers that can run all day long. Their GeoLink technology makes spraying so accurate, there's virtually no overlap. And their IntelliDash platform makes it easy to track course conditions in real time. Want to see what's next? Follow Toro on Instagram and on X, and know that Toro is always solving and always evolving.
Oh boy.
What's going on?
How's it going?
Not too bad. I have never seen you with your hair not done. Look at that.
I know. Yeah, it's bad.
No, it's not bad. Still a good looking guy. You've always got it gelled.
I know. I was gonna wear a hat. I must have forgot to bring it down. So let's see what we got.
I was gonna say, you must have a hat close to you.
Always.
One of those guys, always within reach.
Always within reach. May not match, but at least it's fine. No one watches this, right?
Yeah. It actually looks like it matches. It looks like it matches pretty well.
We're
Same
close
colors.
enough. We're close enough. What's up, buddy?
Well, not much. Busy morning. Trying to get rid of some of that snow and ice on the golf course. It's that time of year up here in Canada. Always fun.
Yeah. Hard to believe. I saw you. So you've got a couple different stages of thaw, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of, depending on where the greens are located on the course, some are completely naked and some are still buried in snow. So we're out there with the black ash leaf compost, trying to get some of it on the snow to help attract some of the sun, hopefully help it melt over the next few days. But it's been getting colder here, so I think we're kind of at a bit of a standstill right now.
Gotcha. What's the forecast?
Next week's kind of still, hovering around freezing temperatures. So, a lot of people, there was a couple of really nice days and you saw people changing their tires, and it's kind of like, hang on a second, you might want to wait.
Yeah.
We do this every year.
I know, right? We had that fall spring a couple days ago, and then all of a sudden, we came back down to the 40s, and of course, perfect timing, just, in time for the kids to have games and scrimmages outside that we have to go and sit through. So outstanding stuff.
Always fun. We were texting a little bit there about the Ontario boys. I dove into that story yesterday. That is so cool. Those guys
Isn't
made
that
that trip.
nuts?
And I just love how it got picked up, right? Because there's probably people all over that make trips to golf tournaments and things like that. So for just that one to get picked up, and those guys, I don't like, are they still down there? They might still be in the States at this point because they were going to play some rounds and they were at TGL the other day. So like, it's a hell of a trip for those guys.
Yeah, it's quite the experience for them. I think I saw somewhere that they were on their way back.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I
They probably
think I
have
saw a
things to do
tweet.
up here.
Yeah, they got to get back to school. So
It was a
quite a
really cool
whirlwind
story.
for those guys. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
no. So
yeah.
I was trying to reach out to them. They replied to one of the posts that I put out there about them, but I haven't been able to direct message them. It'd be fun to get them on here and talk about that experience.
That would be
So
really cool.
yeah,
Absolutely.
just seeing
Yeah.
some of the posts, like Joel Damon gave him $100 or something to buy some beers at the
Yeah.
tournament, and like a bunch of other players I think chipped in for some things, and then that whole TGL experience on the floor. We'll have to check in with Tanner to see if he got to meet the Ontario boys.
Yeah, there's a good chance. If you guys haven't
Yeah.
caught that story yet, just Google Ontario boys golf and you'll go down a rabbit hole of what these guys have been doing the last week or so. It's pretty crazy. And I loved it
Yeah.
too. There's been so much talk about US and Canada and all that stuff, all the political stuff. It was so great to just see that those guys were accepted down there and everybody
Oh
loved them
yeah.
and there was a lot of positivity. So it's good to see that in our
Absolutely.
game of golf. It's not really affecting it.
No, it's the greatest thing there is, right? I mean, this the game of golf and what the community within, the golf space was able to provide for those kids. I mean, a once in a lifetime opportunity to go down to Sawgrass and hang out with some tour players and get to live their dream for a little bit. I mean, come on, freaking nuts.
Pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think most people understand whatever's going on politically, is not individuals, people, like you and I have really nothing to do with it. We just kind of let the politicians be politicians and we just kind of figure it out from there. So, yeah, no, I don't think there's going to be any impact. You and I haven't fought yet, so that's a
No,
good
that's
thing.
true. That's true. That'll be the start.
Yeah.
Things ever go bad and Adam and Brian start getting at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's time for another installment of Ask the Agronomist, presented by the Andersons. From tee to green, goal to goal, and shoots to roots, nothing is off limits.
All right, we are back with another question for PhD agronomist Ben Pease. Our question today is, I'm looking for a good product to establish sodded greens expansions. And that comes in from an anonymous person.
Well, good question, Anonymous. That brings me back to some of my time as an assistant. We'd always do these pretty cool small renovation projects, greens roll-offs, things of that nature. And we bring in this really nice bent grass sod, and well, now we're tasked with keeping it alive and getting it established. So first thing we're always thinking about in that situation is getting root development. The quicker we can get that very expensive sod to root down, the sooner we're not coming in on evenings and weekends to keep it alive. So root development highly tied to phosphorus. So most fertilizers don't have that. So you got to find a good starter fertilizer. And for fine cut turf areas, it's Genesis RX 575 is a great option. It's got slow and fast release nitrogen, so we're not feeding that turf too much, but we're giving it some feeding. It's got slow and fast release phosphorus. So phosphorus is the really big decision factor here. Knowing that that's got smart phos in it, that phosphorus is going to stay available to this young sod. There's some humic aspect to Genesis 575 as well that really helps with root development. So those are some things that you look for initially. We're running irrigation, so we want to think about moisture retention too. So any surfactant that you can use or fertilizer plus surfactant to, again, increase the intervals between when we have to run irrigation or drag hoses. That's a big thing when we're getting sod, established. It's got to stay wet pretty much 24/7 until those roots are fully developed. So Surfactants, with or without a fertilizer, are really good. So think of our HydroCharge 321. Now that is a larger SGN product. I think it's 240 SGN, so it might be tougher on tighter cut turf, but initially before it's being played on, that'll work just fine. Going forward, when you get into, let's say, like 6 weeks out, 7 weeks out, the sod has established. It's the roots are there, but we still need to push more root development. So we're probably cutting it lower at that time, so we can't really use any large SGN products. But we can move to, Contact DG starter fertilizers. There's a 12-24-8 that is a Contact DG, so you can water it in, gets into the turf canopy, and it's a great starter fertilizer. But even weeks 6 through 7 or 8, you're still treating that sod as brand new, trying to get some root growth. So that would probably be the trifecta. You're kind of starting with an all-around product with Genesis 575. And if you're incorporating surfactants, that's another great way to, speed up the establishment and reduce your labor. And then, followed up with a really good starter fertilizer, one that will get into the canopy and you get into the soil system where those roots are feeding. Good question.
A lot of fun days out on the golf course trying to keep sod alive.
Oh, yeah.
My question for you then, Ben, my follow-up would be, how do we know if we've gotten to the point of no return? What is the sod going to look like when there's just no chance of it coming back?
Well, I I had an experience like this at a course I worked at after I did my master's, and I was the one that made the call that, oh yeah, the sod's good. Saturday morning, let's go home, and we come back the next day and it's purpled and kind of drying up and seams are showing again. I think, oh no, what did we do wrong here? Well, I didn't water enough that Saturday morning, but you're not totally lost because what really happened is everything did survive eventually. But it just took another 3 or 4 weeks of babying that sod along to get it to recover from the drought stress and then start pushing roots again. So in a situation like that where you come back and the irrigation didn't run or something, or strange stuff happens out on golf courses. The sod looks purple or starting to brown. Don't tear it up. I think just keep hammering it with water, but it's just gonna take 2 or 3 more weeks now to get it to where you would have liked to have been. So keep going, but do keep going with fertility as well, because that water's flushing through a lot of nutrients. So make sure you're either doing some slow release granular feeding or very light foliar feeding to help that turf recover from the transplant stress first off, and then Ben forgot to water enough drought stress that was induced afterwards. But usually you can get turf, sod to bounce back. It's amazing how much resiliency is in all those stolons or rhizomes.
That's awesome. Well, like you said, we just got to keep it wet till the roots are able to get down there. So stay on it, folks. Well, this was awesome, Ben. Thank you so much. That wraps up another Ask the Agronomist segment featuring Dr. Ben Pease from the Andersons.
Yo. So I follow this guy named Hunter Cooper. He was the superintendent up at Gamble Sands up in Washington State. He's now down in, I think, South Carolina. He just sent me 4 videos. He hasn't really responded via video in a long time. Posted a video today where there's construction going on and on the property, and I'm thinking to myself, dude, what's going on there? I knew he left Gamble Sands to go down and take this job down in South Carolina. I didn't know it entailed all the construction work. It doesn't. He's at a different facility doing construction. So, as I'm watching these videos, hearing his story, I got cut off by my alarm telling me to get up from my nap. I take a nap all the time. Anyways, man. Hunter Cooper, get him on your show. give him his hour and 15 minutes, whatever. He's a really good kid. He's worked hard. He's working hard. He's got a great wife, a great young boy. He's got a good story to tell. Good-natured human being. He'd make for a good story. Take care of yourself, buddy.
Hunter, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Thanks so much for joining us today. You excited?
I am super excited about this. This is pretty neat. Listened to the show for a good while, and I don't know, it's kind of wild to be on the show.
Well, just get ready for the lifestyle that follows being a guest on the show. I mean, your hand's going to be hurting from all those autographs that you have to sign after this. It's nuts.
Oh, man, I hope it turns out that way.
Yeah, that's great. So where are you joining us from here? Looks like some.
I am currently I'm currently golf course construction superintendent at Old Eight Golf Club, which is in Greenwood, South Carolina. Formerly was named Stony Point. Property was bought out late last year and is currently kind of in a rebranding, overhaul, complete master plan, 10-year project. So we're there's no kind of to it. We're basically rebuilding every single stitch of this place.
Wow. So like playing quarters kind of staying the same, but then just totally revamping what the look and feel of the course?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some holes are getting plus or minus by 50 to 100 yards in some areas. A lot of elevation, kind of flattened out in some areas, built up in others. It's going to, for the most part, same corridors, but no, a ton of tree work as well. So it'll be familiar to people that have been here before, but it's a completely different golf course. People ask a lot of, oh, how is it? I used to like this green. Is it going to be like that? Or, those tees, it was like, that doesn't exist anymore. Right by a green, right by our shop a few minutes ago. And I think that green center of the green's about 60, 70 yards further than it was. So completely different golf course.
That's so cool. We'll definitely have to get into Old Eight Golf Club a little bit, but one of the big reasons we brought you on the show, Hunter, was you were recommended to us by a couple different people. One who, an old guest of the show and an old friend of the show, Voice Talk Dave, sent us a few different messages about you, and we had to have you on. And if you want to, kind of start at the beginning and tell us your story.
Yeah, good shout out to Dave there. Dave's a heck of a dude. I've yet to meet him in person.
Oh, just you wait, buddy. Just you wait. That guy's amazing.
We talk on a semi-regular basis. He feels like he's just a very eclectic person, and I don't know. He's just a neat guy from what I can tell. We were going to link up for ice cream at GIS last year in Phoenix last year, but he had an early flight, and I was at my chapter night, and it just didn't work out. But no, Dave's a good dude. So
yeah.
glad to hear that. Glad to hear that y'all cross paths. So,
oh, absolutely. He's a character, but you can tell he's got a very, very warm heart, and he works hard. So he's a big friend of the show.
Absolutely. So I am originally from a small town about 30 minutes from here, Calhoun Falls, which, like I said, 30 minutes down the road from here. I started in, I think it was my sophomore or junior year of high school. I was big in FFA, Future Farmers, and I needed an ag project. I was also playing football at the time. I was really lousy at it. So I kind of needed a project. I was trying to get some brownie points for the coach. Like, maybe we can kill two birds with one stone. I'll cut the football field. So I started mowing the field, and I remember going to the Clemson Extension office and getting a small book. I think the guy just gave it to me, but it was on it was on sports turf management practices. And I remember just reading that thing like it was the Bible. And I just started doing all this stuff in this small school. I think my entire school was like 150 people from 6th through 12th grade. So really small town. Never seen stripes on anything. Definitely never seen just a good quality of cut. It was more of like, hey, we have green grass. Like, we're doing good. Anyway, so I started doing that, and I kind of got the bug a little bit, and people start complimenting, like, man, what is different? It looks good. Baseball season rolled around. The baseball coach saw some free young labor and asked if I wanted to help. And as they say, like, the rest is history. So I went to Georgetown Technical College, in Conway. Super, super good program there. The Fighting Mole Crickets, and they have completely revamped everything in the last, I don't know, dozen years or so since I've been gone. It's kind of wild to go there. There's a building where I used to park my car at every day. So anyway, yeah, I went over to Georgetown, got my 2 degree from there, and yeah, I swapped up from sports turf to golf turf my second year. I was always like, if it ain't half-inch cut Bermuda, I don't care nothing about it. They keep talking about greens, 316, whatever. But here we are. There's a lot more jobs, a little bit more money, a lot more possibilities when you get into the golf side of things, especially compared to sports turf. I got out of school in 2010, and not a super fun time to be getting into the golf market. I remember our program director at the time with tears in his eyes, our last day of class, saying he's never felt bad sending a group of students into the world until then. And,
Wow.
It's kind of neat seeing how the industry has changed from then and now, from 2010 to 2025. Used to, it was, you had 20, 30 applicants for every job. And now it's kind of, it's ticked back up a little bit, but you definitely have more jobs than applicants. For a job to go unfilled was just unheard of. There was golf courses closing every week in Myrtle Beach. And, now we're building golf courses. So, yeah, I got into the industry when it was pretty much at rock bottom low, at least that a lot of people have seen. So it's been kind of cool to watch it tick back up. I left school in 2010 and I went to Hermitage Country Club just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I was up there for a year as a second assistant, worked with some really awesome folks up there. The country club was really neat in the fact that we had two 18-hole golf courses. One was entirely cool season. One was Bermuda grass with bent grass greens. So all on the same piece of property, you had two complete opposite golf courses. So really neat to, I guess I've made the effort my entire career to be exposed to as much as possible and see as many different things as possible. And by working places like that, I've definitely checked that box. You're on Bermuda grass fairways over here, and these guys are airifying bent grass fairways over here. We're going to bed, they're waking up. Being able to literally look to the fairway on the other side of the cart path and see that stuff was really neat. I was there for 1 year, right at almost exactly 1 year. Kind of got a little homesick, and I took a job as a spray tech at the Creek Club at Reynolds Plantation at the time. Now it's Reynolds Lake Oconee. Just absolutely phenomenal piece of property in central Georgia, about halfway between Atlanta and Augusta. It almost feels like home to an extent. I was there for 8 years and a few months, almost 8.5 years. I started as spray tech. I was there for literally 90 days, just because I know that because I was moved to second assistant at the Oconee course at Reynolds. And for people that may not know, Reynolds now has 7 golf courses. So it's basically like a small town that's built around golf courses. Kind of Pinehurst-y a little bit in the sense of the town, or the community is the golf course is the community. So we went from Creek Club as spray tech to second assistant at the Oconee. I was there for 3.5 years, 3 years. And then I moved over to the Preserve, where I was a first assistant for, 5 years. So I was there for, like I said, 8.5 years at Reynolds in central Georgia. I said Reynolds is a great place, almost to a fault, in the sense that if you're in, it's great, but if you're trying to move up, not necessarily a great place because it is so good that no one really moves around, and I don't blame those guys at all. I have a great relationship with all the guys over there. We still talk almost daily. With Tad and Brad and Hoyt, and I haven't talked to Lane in a while, but all those guys still great relationship. They use a lot of the same vendors that we do now, so they're all sitting in really good spots in their careers, and a great place to be a superintendent. With that, my wife and I, back in 2019, she's an EMT, so she rides an ambulance. We were kind of like, why not? We're here. I had been doing it for 9 years at that point. Kind of getting the itch a little bit where you got some better ideas than your boss, and you kind of you're wanting to try out. For me, being a superintendent was never I want all the control, I want to be in charge. It was never that. It was more of I just feel like my way could work, and I want to test that. I want to see that is it going to work? Maybe it doesn't, And if it's not, let's go ahead and fail so we can learn from it, and then we can succeed. So anyway, so we kind of got shopping around, and we were like, we didn't have any kids at the time. She's nationally certified. There's golf courses everywhere. Let's kind of spin the dial. So we landed in north central Washington State, a heck of a long way from Georgia or South Carolina. And everybody did and still does think we're absolutely nuts for doing it. But we went out we were out there for right at 5 years and a couple months. I was superintendent at Gamble Sands in Brewster, Washington. So Gamble, super, like unbelievable property. You look up one picture of it and you just want to go and hang out over there. Really, really amazing property. A lot of really good folks. And then after 5 years, some things had happened, and we had our first child in 2021. So we got a 3.5-year-old little boy, Cass, and we were kind of feeling a little bit of tug to get closer to home. So we kind of started shopping around a little bit, same kind of deal. And I took a superintendent job at Greenwood Country Club, which is just 10 minutes down the road, kind of a fixer-upper type of property. And I was only at Greenwood Country Club for maybe 2.5, 3 months. And then I came over here to Old 8 Golf Club. A little bit controversial to go in and get right back out of somewhere, but we did at Gamble so much construction, so much of it in-house. When I found out about this project, I was kind of like mad. Like, where was that at? I didn't know about that. If I had known about that, I probably would have never applied to the other one. But at the same time, it got me here. So I'll forever be thankful for Greenwood Country Club and the membership and everything that they've done to get me here. But at the same time, I feel like I'm in the right spot for right now and kind of right where I need to be. I've done a fair amount of construction over the years, which it doesn't feel like it's been that long, but I guess technically it's been 14-ish, 15 years, which feels really weird to say because I don't feel that old someday. But yeah, to say it's been 14, 15 years and I've done, I don't know, a handful of renovations. I helped build a, short course where we did all of it in-house, a ton of other CapEx projects and that kind of thing is kind of neat to say that I have my thumbprint on that. And then really proximal to the construction of a new 18 at Gamble that opens up this coming August. Didn't have a ton of involvement with it, but I jokingly say that I consulted a good bit. There was a lot of therapy sessions with my boss at the time, just kind of looking at things, getting the second, third, fourth opinion on, is this going to work? Is that right? How do I start this? What's the deal? So the long and short of it is I've kind of been a little bit of everywhere, I guess, but I think it makes me marketable, and I think it makes me a little different than a lot of people because I have the personal opinion that you're only as good as what you've been exposed to and your experiences. If you've only been at 1 or 2, 3 golf courses, all you know how to do is that 1 or 2, ways of doing it. But when you've worked at a number of different places over the years, high end, low end, kind of everything in between, you've seen a lot of different ways to do it. You can kind of form your own kind of mentality and modality of how you want to do things. I always like to say I'm a big casserole of tactics. I want to mow greens like we did here. I want to spray fairways like we did there, water like we did here. And then before you know it, you've got this big pile of stuff that you do. So
along those lines, then you mentioned earlier thinking about taking that next step and wanting to implement your own ideas. Talk about when you're an assistant and you've got these ideas, how do you approach your director or your superintendent with some of the things that you may want to try?
Yeah, it's funny. I remember early on when I was second assistant, first assistant above me told me that the second assistant was the hardest job on the golf course because you're kind of in charge, but you're kind of not. And then when I got to be a first assistant, I felt like it was the exact same. And then now as a superintendent, it's still kind of the exact same. So, and maybe that's me, but some days I jokingly say with some of the crew and stuff, some days I'm the president of the company and other days I'm just a ditch digger. I think a lot of that stuff gets back to, if you read, I like to read a good bit. If you read like Extreme Ownership and listen to some podcasts and stuff like that, they talk about like leadership capital. And I think it's a good concept. If you come in the door your first day and you say, "Hey, boss, like we're going to spray X, Y, and Z this way," like I think you're pretty naive if you think the guy's going to go with it. If you're getting there 2 or 3 minutes before start time, you're not really engaged. You're on your phone, not really paying attention and really feeling the pulse of the place. You're first one out the door. You're not, if you're doing that type of stuff, I don't think I don't know. You don't really you're not forging yourself a seat at the table. I had a conversation with a guy the other day that we had, we're currently in this full scale construction project. And this person had spent a bunch of time on a conceptual kind of drawing. And the architect kind of looked at it and was like, "Yeah, I changed my mind the other day. I meant to tell you, we're not doing that," and kind of tossed the paper to the side. And the dude was really upset. And he did a good job. He spent a lot of time on it. But man, that's construction. And that's, like how many times have we all come up with a schedule and it rains or it's windy or whatever, and it gets kiboshed. So, for a younger person that's trying to get some influence, trying to get a finger hold with their boss and trying to do some stuff, earn your place at that table, put in the hours, put in the time, be attentive. Don't do like I have done so many times and bring up every single thing you think of, because like I'm bad about getting the good idea fairy and you want to go try everything. So like pump the brakes a little bit and just figure out, I guess as an assistant, something I always did was I kind of thought of, if I was in charge, what would I be doing? No matter if it's Airification week, I just kind of almost, you do your job board, and I would like have my own job board. To the extent I started doing it on like Excel, just be like, if I was in charge, I would do X, Y, and Z. So I was almost like role playing as superintendent, even though I was an assistant. And it was a really good exercise, because then when you are in charge of day-to-day operations and you're assigning everything, you kind of can do it that way, but you also get to see why your way would or would not have worked. So, that's a long drawn out way of saying you got to earn the trust and earn the capital with your superintendent to be able to, get him to try things or her to try things. A lot of times too, I think that we all get short sighted and we just think the guy doesn't get it. He's not listening to you. He doesn't care. I assure you, no one cares more about the place than, the superintendent and then eventually the owner, et cetera. So, maybe just try to get the information from the guy to, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, why did we do this? Why did we do it this way? I felt like maybe if we had done this, it would have worked better. But, there's something I don't know, because a lot of times there's something you don't know.
I want to stay on this one for a second, because I've been an assistant a long time, and this is really good, because we talk to a lot of guys who are assistants, who have become assistants or become superintendents from before, and they struggle with that. Will I ever feel ready, or am I ready? And do other people think I'm ready? But if you're already practicing that as an assistant and getting those ideas and planning that stuff out, you're right. It's not, am I ready? It's, do I think I can do this better? And should I take a shot? And I think that mindset's amazing. Do you ever look back and think, maybe I should have done something different?
All the time, like every single day. There's stuff I could have handled better, stuff I should or should not have said. Yes, the hindsight's 20/20, no doubt. But to that point too, with the younger guys, this feels weird to say that. I'm only 35, but with the younger guys, the people that are coming into the industry now, like they're like when I got into it in 2010, like it was still kind of old school. Like, your superintendent had cut his teeth in the 80s and 90s, and they didn't really care. Like, it was kind of cutthroat. It was kind of Caddyshack-ish. It was a lot of really hard work. There was no GPS sprayers. There was no, we were still doing things kind of old school. But with the people that are getting into it nowadays, man, you have these hacks that you can do, and we all should use them. I know I do. I mean, you want to get ahead, like use ChatGPT. My Lord, what a tool that is. It feels weird to use it. It feels like you're cheating, and I guess you are, but hey, this is a fight. We're trying to win. It's not always about following the rules. I'm trying to be the best, trying to succeed, trying to get ahead. Like, that's the ultimate goal. Who cares how we get there? As long as we're being right and we're not messing anybody up along the way, like, does it matter? You just using all the technology that's out there between ChatGPT, Growing Degree Days, talking with your sales rep, building that network, all that stuff. Like, you don't have to be you don't have to be a superintendent or director of agronomy or whatever fancy long business card title you have. It used to really grind my gears as an assistant when a sales guy would walk in and just ask, "Hey, where's soup?" And I'd be like, "Oh, he's over there." And he's like, "All right, turn around and walk out." Like, screw
Yeah,
you, man.
the
Like,
worst.
I'm a superintendent one day and I'm not buying stuff from you.
Hmm.
And maybe I'm petty. Maybe I shouldn't hold a grudge like that, but I do. If you don't want to talk to me because I don't have the checkbook, I'm not, when I do have the checkbook, I'm not calling you. Like, plain and simple. So I think assistants they're definitely the backbone of the industry. It's funny, the higher up you go, the less like physical labor you have to do. My role here is a little funky just because, I do have a director of agronomy over me. We have another kind of co-superintendent who was the original superintendent here. And then now I've kind of showed up. So we've kind of got a lot of management, but we all kind of really nestle in and figure out what our roles are. We kind of stay in our lanes and we support each other. But as an assistant, you don't have to stay in your lane and be held down and like subdued. Like, go get after it. Like, go do it. Ask the questions, try some stuff. Don't kill any grass, but
Yeah, don't kill any grass.
if you see a product you want to try, like, talk to your soup about it. Favorite thing in the world. Like, I wanted to try Turf Mend. I got told no. I contacted the guy. He sent me like 2 free bags. Guess what? We didn't have to pay for it. What do you think the answer is now? Well, sure, go try it. Ta-da! We bought tons and tons and tons of Turf Mend after that. Like, stuff like that. Figure out a way. The answer is yes. What's the question? You just got to figure out how to get that, how to win the guy over. And I don't know, maybe I overthink things, but I always think if I get told no, I just didn't word my question right, or I didn't do the background work to make sure it was the right time to ask that question or to implement that strategy. And there's a lot of ways of saying as an assistant, like, be aggressive, piss your superintendent off, bug the heck out of them. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there a little bit. But again, at the end of the day, you still have to be earning your spot at that table. You can't show up 5 minutes late every day, come in hungover, dress like a slob, talk rough to the guys. You can't do all that stuff and then expect to have a spot at that table to where you can bring up ideas that are going to be listened to.
I'm glad you mentioned get outside your comfort zone a little bit. Is that something you've had to work really hard to do as you've been coming up through the industry, or is it just something that's been natural for you to be a mover and shaker?
Yeah, I think the first time I got on a legitimate reel mower, it was stepping outside the comfort zone. You're an 18-year-old kid and you've got a guy who's like, when I was in college, that's the first golf course I worked on. You're an 18-year-old kid and you got a guy who's very questionable, is obviously like possibly still drunk, definitely hungover, and they just like, you're throwing greens, and you're like, oh crap, like, yeah. The whole industry is stepping outside the comfort zone. But I don't know. I think one of the biggest things for me that I have seen is anytime I've ever been intentional with my time, whether at work or outside of work or whatever, it's paid me back dividends. It's never been time wasted. And about step outside your comfort zone, anytime I've ever gone to a conference or taken a class or reached out to someone, that you just completely cold call someone. Hey, I heard you on maybe Turf Today. You said a couple things I really like that, sparked something in me. I want to talk deeper about it. Give me a call. And almost every time people are super receptive. They're very open. And it's, it's paid me back dividends. So I don't know if it necessarily comes natural, but I don't know. You just kind of got to go do it. You can't be meager, and you just kind of got to go do it. And I don't know, if you screw up, you screw up. Everybody else screws up too. It's just kind of, I don't know.
Sounds like it's not as necessarily intentional. It's just kind of part of your personality. You just kind of go out and you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just a goofball, and I've never been afraid to look like one. I mean, you just do stuff. I don't know. My wife she's a little bit. She's not quite as outgoing, I guess you'd say, when it comes to stuff like that. And she's always like, "You just go do stuff." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, just go do it. You go find out." And I just couldn't do it.
So how you operate with your assistants then? Do you kind of leave it up to them to come to you, or do you kind of push them from your role?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, in my mindset at least, it's kind of, light your own rocket. It's going to take you to the moon or it's going to blow up in your face, but it's your rocket. If you've got a really good idea and it's the right thing, like, let's do it. Like, my favorite thing is in the world is when a crew guy comes up with what we're doing for the day, because it's what needs to be done and I didn't see it. I mean, I've probably mowed rough like 8 times in my life because I was spraying greens and changing cups. So, like, I'm not the expert on mowing rough. That guy over there is. So with the assistants and stuff, like, yeah, you've been here at this exact property longer than me. You know what that wind is going to do. You know what that rain is going to do. Yeah, I'm 100% leaning on them. Those guys are pounding the ground as much as anybody. I try to give them competition, and I try to get around property at least 2-3 times a day, as much as possible. But yeah, it's definitely a cooperative effort. I try not to be, the big iron dome over things. I've been a part of that. I don't like being managed like that, and I don't, some people may, but I don't want to manage like that.
Oh man, we've been on for 25 minutes right now. You've already provided so much great advice. Any superintendents listening right now, definitely share Hunter's words with your assistants, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. I want to break away a little bit, talk about a couple of the courses you're working at. We got to go up to Gamble, then talk about the fires.
Yeah, so we already talked about that. But so I started, my wife says to me I'm crazy for this, but some people go into golf full time, that's their career. Some people go into fire and that's their career. And somehow or another, I've kind of done a little bit of both. So it doesn't provide me with a lot of free time, and that's okay. But yeah, so I started firefighting in 2011 when I was in Georgia. And then, obviously the landscape and climate in Georgia is one thing. And then you move out to Washington State, north central Washington State, and the big sagebrush landscape. We get 8-9 inches of rain per year. You get, single digit humidities. It's 100+ degrees for a month and a half. And then you get these massive, just 2, 3, 4 day windstorms that don't let up. It's 20 miles an hour sustained with gusts 40, 50, just, completely just permanently part your hair type windstorm. And then, I got on the fire department when I moved to Brewster, so where Gamble Sands is. And it was kind of like if I'm moving, there's got to be a fire aspect to it. Like, service is important to me. And I've been doing fire for 8 years, 8.5 years at that point. Like, I can't just let it go. Like, I enjoy it too much. We got way too much time invested in it. So when I got to Gamble, fire department, literally 4 blocks, 5 blocks from my house. So it worked out really good. I was usually the first person in the station. We were a volunteer department there. But anyway, fast forward at Gamble, we actually had, I don't know, we probably had 5, 6 separate fires in the 5 years I was there, maybe more than that. I don't know. But in 2020, it was Labor Day. We had a fire start about 30 miles north of us. And it was like the next day was supposed to be like super windy. It was, September 1st. So it's just completely dry. And, I got up at like 4:30 to go, or maybe it was 4:15 to go to work. And I had like umpteen missed calls. We had got called to a brush fire in the middle of the night, and I didn't go to it because I got to get up and go to work in the morning. And then it was our property owner basically using pretty colorful language, asking me where the heck I was. And I was like, why? There's a fire above the golf course. Well, I opened the door to go out with my truck, and I was like, oh, crap. And one thing out there, if you've seen pictures, the sight lines are really long. And from my front porch, 7 miles away, from the north to the south end of the horizon at 4 o'clock in the morning, it looked like the sun was coming up. And it was basically the glow of the fire. So it was like, that's interesting. So we had level 3 evac the golf course. We got to the golf course, kind of started doing some kind of like structure protection measures, getting things dug out, kind of preparing everything, all our critical infrastructure, the pump house, our wellheads for the hotel that we had, going around all the buildings, making sure there was nothing loose and dry laying around, kind of preparing things the best we could. We got a generator hooked up for our pump station, enough to run at least one pump, just because of, it's very similar to like in a hurricane or a tornado or something like that, where one of the things you lose is power. Well, if you have a fire, one of the things you need is water. And how do you pump water? Power. So we got a generator hooked up, and we kind of got out of there mid-afternoon because we sent our people away. The fire was kind of coming down the hill, and then I went and tied in with the fire department, and one of our guys was still on property, and I was like, call me when it gets here. And we were heading back, and fire blew right past the shop. I mean, 20, 30-foot flame lengths, 40, 50-mile-an-hour wind gust. And then basically spent the rest of the night in the neighboring community. And I think when all was said and done in like 36 hours. So they called it two separate fires because it jumped the Columbia River, which saying that a fire jumped the Columbia River is kind of.
That's wild.
Yeah, exactly. I guess like that doesn't happen. But it was spotting, half a mile ahead of itself. And when all was said and done at the end of like a 36-hour time period, I think it burned close to 900,000 acres.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, like kind of like apocalyptic, if you will. But then we had our shop caught on fire the next year. So we kind of figured that out, and luckily we got it really early on. It was electrical fire in the attic, burnt through a couple of trusses and some insulation. We had a couple brush fires in the area, really close to the golf course, because where the golf course is, there's really not much out there. It just kind of sits up on this bench, and there's really nothing for a few miles in every direction. So if something happens 3 miles away, well, you're 15 minutes from any sort of fire apparatus or anything like that. So by the time they get there, it's going to be 20, 30 plus acres. And, with being a volunteer department, your staffing is very questionable. It might be one person, it might be 10 people. So you kind of got to living in that type of environment, that type of climate, everybody out there has kind of got 1 foot looking out the door at any sort of fire conditions. And then ironically enough, my last day at Gamble was October 2nd. That was my birthday present to myself, was leaving Gamble. But on October 1st, we burnt 5,400 acres basically up to the golf course. I was at work. It was middle afternoon. We got a call. I was kind of didn't think much about it, whatever. And then I started seeing smoke, and then they're calling me, hey, are you coming to that? I was like, no, I'm at work. We're just going to get big. You need to come. And I was like, yeah, I can't do that. Like, tomorrow's my last day, blah, blah, blah. It ended up being one of those, don't worry about it. There's plenty of fire for when you get off work. So ended up leaving, getting and grabbing a truck and kind of joining the party. And we were out pretty late that night, and we burnt 5,400 acres. So it was kind of neat. Last big fire, leaving town. So I got to spend one really last good time with the boys. Get to hear everybody on a fire sing you happy birthday over the radio at midnight. That stuff's pretty cool. Like you can't make stuff like that up. So that was a really good time.
So are you still involved? Are you still volunteer firefighter where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So like I said, in Georgia, I was there for 8 years. And it was more kind of a suburban department, pretty rural area, but house fires, wrecks, trees, stuff like that. So did that, moved out there. It was mostly wildland. We'd have 10 or 12 structure fires a year. And then now back here, I'm a member of Abbeville County Fire Service. So I'm going back through. None of my stuff transferred because I was gone from Georgia for 5 years. So I kind of lost my certifications. So I'm going back through in the evenings right now and redoing all my certifications. Super fun. It's a good reminder just to go through everything again from scratch. But yeah, I'm still definitely very much involved here.
So how do you balance that then? You're construction superintendent, you've got a 3.5-year-old at home, and you're a volunteer firefighter. How do you have time for everything?
3 jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had any advice, because I kind of, it's a lot. No, the biggest one is my wife. I couldn't do any of it without her. She's phenomenal. We got married in 2015. And we waited a while before we had kids. Because one of the things we wanted to do that was really important to us is for her to be a stay-at-home mom for a little while. So she's been kind of a stay-at-home mom. She's kind of getting back into the workforce, working part-time with EMS, riding the ambulance a couple days a week. But living close to home has made it a lot easier. Some people might say too close, but it's actually been a really big blessing. I live probably, driver and a 3-wood from my in-laws. So it's kind of nice to be able to run over there if I need to and drop him off, or they can pick him up, or, hey, can you just come over here? My parents live 10 minutes away. So a really good support network, at home. And I think the other one, as we get older, as you get more experienced in life and whatever, is things get, I hesitate to say easier, but you just get more efficient at doing things. I hate surprises, but I can tell you that, like, I know that, like, here, May through July 4th is going to be pandemonium because we got to get down like 80 acres of sprigs. So, like, probably not doing a whole lot of extracurriculars. You're going to be here a long time. You just get where you got better foresight on things. And one of the things that I continue to just, I think is really neat is the amount of crossover and carryover between the stuff that I do and have done with the fire service and the stuff in the golf course world. I mean, if you think of at 2:00 in the morning, you're going to get a call for someone having a really bad day, and you show up and it's, you don't know who's coming. Maybe it's one person, maybe it's 5, like, you don't know. And then you got a short amount of time to figure out a pretty complex problem with really high stakes. So one, you got to make sure you're squared away when it comes to your training. You got to make sure that you're doing like your incident command type stuff, handing out assignments for your second coming people. Third, figuring out what your priorities are, how you're going to accomplish it with varying levels of staffing. And everything I just described is basically what we do on a golf course. We got to figure out what we're doing first, what we're doing second. Joe was supposed to have been here, but Joe was sick. Or Julio was coming, but he's got 3 people that ride with him. He had a flat tire. Well, we got a shotgun at 8:00. It's the same thing. You got a kind of a complex problem that we got to figure out. We got to do it to a high level. We don't have a ton of time to plan it. There's uncontrollable variables. Maybe it rained. Maybe there's frost. Maybe whatever. There's a main line break. I don't know. So just going through the planning, the small group leadership type classes that I've taken with fire department stuff is overlaid tremendously on the golf side of things. And then there's stuff that I do with the fire department that's super easy because of my golf course experience. For example, where I was in Washington, I was a training officer for a good while because, like, people don't want to stand up in front of 15 people and say, all right, guys, this is how we do blah, blah, blah. Well, we do that every morning. We got 15 guys sitting in a break room. Hey, Joe, you're mowing greens and you're, changing cups and you break the bunkers, do better than you did yesterday because you left something. That public speaking, it's all the same thing. So there's a lot of carryover to it. So I think it makes me kind of well-rounded to find that how those things are kind of complementary. But as far as how I juggle all that, I don't know. You just do it, and I don't know. We'll get some sleep maybe when we retire or something like that.
That's a good way to look at it. So you obviously seem like somebody who has a really good headspace. How do you protect that? Because you are such a busy guy with everything going on. Where do you kind of find your breaks?
Well, that's where, too, I would go as far to say, I used to tell people this, too, because this is true, that the fire service and the fire department saved my career. When I was in Virginia, I worked, I don't know, it was a bunch of days, like a lot, like 80, 90 days in a row or 70 days in a row or something. It was like a marathon, and at the end of it, I was a zombie. And I had like one day off, and then I worked, I don't know, like 30 days. And it kind of made me, it didn't, it made me burned out and like kind of pissed off at the industry and like, screw this, because I'm not really a big golfer, just because I just don't have time. I understand the importance of it to our industry and to what we do. I always kind of say, I'm a man of analogies. I say that a chef should taste his own food. And I'm really guilty of not tasting my own food when it comes to that. I definitely observe playing conditions like all the time, kicking balls, rolling balls, just checking things, talking to golfers, etc. But as far as, maintaining a good headspace, I was burned out. I was really burned out. Like, I was getting ready to figure out something else to do. And then I started getting into the fire service, frankly, because I considered it as a second career. Because I was like, hey, you can help people out. It looks kind of cool. Why not? Let's look into it. And it sounds a little macho, but it's true. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you're kneeling on someone's front steps with fire coming out of the door and there's two people running up behind you with a hose, like you ain't thinking about what the pump station's doing. It's given me what it's done for me. One, it gives me a completely separate thing that I can think about, but it also keeps things in perspective. There's no secret that, PTSD and mental health is a huge concern amongst first responders, top to bottom. I've lost some friends due to mental health issues. I've been very proximal to suicide and some other things in and out of the industry. It's a big thing. It's a big deal. And it's something we don't all talk about enough. And I've always tried to be there for people that, that I could. But frankly, when you see some of the things and you're exposed to some of the situations that you're exposed to on a semi-regular basis, it really keeps this stuff here in check and in perspective. It's again, it's just the cold hard facts. It's not uncommon for, every so often, like I'll get called along with the guys on our station. You go to a house and then there's someone that's not going to wake up tomorrow. And then the next morning we got to get in here and we got to be really serious and really, really staunch about what color we're painting the T markers. So it's like, this stuff doesn't matter. It does. It's our paycheck. We're creating this experience for people. We're creating memories for families and stuff. So finding purpose in the golf industry and kind of like what is the service aspect of it for me has kind of helped me cope with like this not being important. But again, I know I'm kind of jumping around, but the fire service has provided me with a perspective that I don't think a lot of other people have, just because it keeps things in perspective. There's, we've even said like, we're not out here saving lives. And it's like, no, we're not, because you were talking about grass. I got mad at you because you didn't rake sand in the right direction. Like, get out of here. Give me a break.
That's a great perspective for sure. Like you said, it is it's not life and death, and you're getting to see that firsthand, unfortunately, with your side gig there. So you mentioned it earlier. Would love for you to kind of elaborate on it. Just how important is it to have that support system behind you? A wife that's at home with the kid and really allowing you to do all these different things. How much of a role does she play in kind of keeping you healthy and giving you the ability to do all this?
I think she's definitely like, I don't know, without her, I don't know, I might not be here. I would have probably ran myself ragged, or I don't know. I would probably be really skinny because she cooks really good, and I probably, nice. I will say, there was a time where she was working at a camp in Colorado when I was in Georgia, and she was gone for a few months, and I literally just ate, like I would buy like a bag of salad and a thing of chicken breast, and I would just eat that. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know. I was like, need some greens. I got some protein. We're good." I lost a ton of weight, and she's like, "My God, like we got to." Like, so yeah, she's everything. I think that plays in. I mean, like I said, as I get older, I see everything more 5D now. It's not so cut and dry, black and white, but making sure that you're squared away at home, making sure that you're squared away emotionally, mentally, etc., definitely helps me be more present here. Like one of my favorite things in the world is like she'll pick him up from like the preschool, or just a couple times a month she'll come out here and bring Cass, and we'll go ride around and look at the bulldozers, and like, I'll like kick somebody out of an excavator and let him sit in my lap. We'll just dig up like 2 scoops. And like this kid's 3.5 years old, and like I'm pretty sure he thinks that like I own all this equipment, and that like I literally am like Superman. And like that's like, I mean, as a dad, like what more do you want than that? Like that's the coolest thing in the world. Just that she understands. It's funny. I was doing. We grew up together. We didn't really date, and then when I moved back south and started working at Reynolds, we kind of ran into each other. Hey, how you been? And then we kind of started dating. So all she's ever known is this circus act that I do, where I, work on the golf course and ride the fire truck. So she gets it. She knows that in the spring, like we're gonna start cranking up, and in the fall, we're gonna do all this work to shut things down. And your schedule gets weird in the summer because it's hot and dry, and it gets weird in the winter because it's cold. So she gets it. She's a turf wife, like she gets it. And then with her being in emergency services as well, she understands that. We talk about, probably shouldn't say this, but like we talk about what we've seen and what we've been to and done. And I think it's helped her process things. I know it's helped me process things because some of it's not always super fun. But yeah, like I don't know, like I think being squared away at home has helped me be more squared away here. We all see as managers, we see guys come in and you can tell when they've got something going on outside of work. And I'm not perfect, trust me. I have bad days. I wake up this morning feeling like crap, but here we are. But having being squared away, being a good person, being a sound mind and body, I think carries over in what we do. And then, like I tell everybody too, is like, hey, I would much rather be at home with them, but I'm here. So if I'm here, I'm going to get my money's worth. I'm going to make it worth it. I'm going to be intentional about what we're doing. We're going to be paying attention. We're doing our thing. Like we're not on our phones. We're working. And she knows that that's all part of it.
Turf Today is also proudly brought to you by Standard Golf. And for all of your golf course accessory needs, make sure you visit standardgolf.com. Right now, they're featuring all their 2025 products, including the Hammer Strike Hole Cutter, Magnum Pro Hole Cutter, and Pinpoint Cup Changer. You got to check out all the amazing things they have on this website, and also follow them on Instagram at Standard Golf CO.
You've got to be one of the all-time coolest dads. I mean, you can bring him out there and he can, mess around with that equipment, and then you can just take him up to the fire station and let him hang around on the fire trucks. I mean, dude, for a little boy, it doesn't get any better.
Yeah, you're killing it.
Serious cool points with that kid because every toy he's got is like a Tonka truck or a bulldozer or something like that. And then like out there in Washington, the family that owned the golf course, the Gevers family, amazing group of people. They have they're one of the largest private landowners in the state of Washington. So they've got a whole fleet of equipment, like stuff that construction companies don't even have. You'd have something happen, a fill line blowout. There's a ditch that's like 20 foot deep by 100 foot, 200 foot long. It's like a canyon. And like the only way we can fix this is the bulldozer. And instead of it being like, all right, we'll call the rental place and see what they can find. No. Like 45 minutes later, you have like a D8 and it's got air conditioning. It's the full deal, and it's cool to be able to do that. And like, I run a lot of equipment that people haven't, like a Cat 336. It's like an 85-ton machine, and I got to drive that thing. Like I got no business doing that, but I can do it just because it's there. And it's like, you know how to drive this? And it's like the old joke of like, well, I've drove stuff. I haven't found anything I can't run yet. So sure, let's do it. We were doing a bunch of work out there when he was like, he was just a few months old. And I'd bring him with me and set him in the dozer. Like he's still in his little car seat, and I'd set him in the floor of the dozer, like shaping up a range tee. And then like we were doing some stuff on that new golf course over there when he's like 2. And now he's still around it at 3. So yeah. And he thinks the fire trucks are cool. And like, I got some cool points with him. If I don't have a fan and anybody else, it's a 3.5-year-old little boy that thinks I'm pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, speaking of cool, you get to host the Barstool Classic.
Yeah, so at Gamble, we hosted the Barstool Classic in 2020. Golly, put me on the spot here. 2022 and then 2024. What's 2021? It's 22. It's 22. So we did it in 2022. It was the first time we had hosted it. Pretty big deal for out there. It's kind of a big, like unveiling, it was a pretty big media presence, which kind of made it as, I don't want to say clumsy, but made it logistically challenging. Tournament's a tournament, I don't know. I don't get too excited about tournaments anymore just because you do so many outings and tournaments and remember, get like it's just tournament. But it was neat to see some of the media hype. There's all sorts of drones flying through the air, and you see some of the social media, like celebrities, if you will, that you see on Instagram, and see rigs and like stuff like that. It was pretty cool. I felt like we did a better job of it in 2024. The golf course was arguably the best I've ever seen it. The time of year was way better as well. Last year, 24, we did it in May. The entire place is perfect. Like, it's the most perfect I've ever seen a golf course, I think. The team of guys I had out there were just unbelievably good. You know, I told them that. I hope they believed me, but they were absolutely killer, hitting on all cylinders. Like, everything the stars lined up. So we held it out there last year. Wasn't quite as much media, but then on the back end of it, like the next day, we had Titleist come out, and Titleist filmed, I don't know, they were out there for 3 days, I think, filming commercials on the golf course for all of their 2025 stuff. So if you've seen some of the newer Titleist commercials, and they're in like this really rugged looking landscape, and they're hitting the ball and the drone's following the ball, like that was all at Gamble. And it was neat to be standing kind of behind the camera for some of that stuff, because we had regular play. There was some like kind of VIP rounds going off around that with Barstool people that were still there, on top of like, oh yeah, over there's like all this media stuff going on. There's drones in the air. They brought in a helicopter. It was the same guy that did a lot of the helicopter work in Yellowstone. They landed the helicopter on our nursery, and they flew around for, I don't know, probably 30 minutes, just taking like super high speed, like 100-mile-an-hour plus shots down a fairway, like 3 foot off the ground. Some phenomenal footage. So that was a pretty neat experience as well, just because of the logistics behind it. You know, they had a camera car out there that's got this big, like probably 30, 40-foot boom on it that they would drive. And of course, with a Porsche, it's like flat black. Why would it be anything else? And, you know, they've got the camera like a foot off the ground, and they're driving down the fairway at like 20 miles an hour, just taking these big sweeping shots, and it shoots up at like the river and the mountains. So it was really cool to kind of be a part of that, to deal with the logistics of like getting the golf course ready. The golf course is like just pristine, just like dialed in as ever. And people are like, okay, cool, let's keep this. Like, we got really good conditioning. Let's try to like hang on to it as long as we can. And you got golf going off at this time, but they're still over here. So like, go mow here, then come back. Oh wait, go back over there, come back here. It was kind of chaotic, but it was a busy 2-3 week time period last year. But yeah, we had a number of events out there, like a US. It's been so many. Like a U.S. Open qualifier, I think. We had a number of events at Gamble.
The value of retention. Talk about the importance of, you know, making sure you keep the people that you currently have, make sure you keep them happy, and just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm like almost mad. The younger guys coming in the industry now, like the barrier to entry is lower. I felt like when I first got into the industry, it was kind of, you got to go to school for it. You know, you got to have a bunch of years before you can be an assistant. You got to be at this high level, rah, rah, rah. But something happened in the mid-teens, post, recession golf market, where people quit going to turf school. And we started seeing people come in kind of the non-traditional route. They weren't previous assistants, or they weren't, they didn't have turf experience, but they had management experience. So the long and short of that is, there's more non-traditional routes getting into the industry, that we have to be focused on retention, because recruitment I feel like it's better than it was maybe 5 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, but it's still nothing like it used to be. The baby boomers are not getting any younger, and a lot of them are starting to retire and cycle out, and there's kind of getting to be a little bit of a void. What that does down the road, I don't know. If I had a time machine, that's probably one of the places I would go, is just 5-10 years in the future and see what the whole thing looks like. But yeah, I think we got to really worry hard about retention, just because we have people come in the door to work, but it's nothing like it was. Post COVID, everybody's priorities kind of changed. And how do you do that? Like I've always said, it's not pizza parties. It's not giving them a water bottle. It's not letting them be on their phone. I think you just got to treat people right. You got to, be a good human and be someone that they want to work for. Just, you got to create a place that they want to come to and be at every day, and they just can't not work there. At Reynolds, we had a huge emphasis on like employee development, and it dropped turnover like it was something like 20% for the whole company. They hired a director of learning and development that we all 100%, myself included, were like, woo woo, like whatever. It's like, we're gonna do videos on how to mow the green, whatever. Like, this is stupid. But when we started realizing that people were staying, everything top to bottom started working better. It was like, well, hang on a minute, maybe there's something to this. Training your people, making sure they know what the deal is, because I've seen it so many times. It's like you get frustrated at someone for not doing something right. You never showed them how to do it in the first place. You can't do that. As superintendents and assistants, we're all busy, but who cares? Like, without those guys, like, you ain't got a job. You can't. There's some mom and pop golf course where there's one employee, but for the most part, you can't do it by yourself. You got to have the crew, and the crew is way more important than, the superintendent or the assistants. If you give me 30 guys, they will figure out to go mow the grass. It may not all be at 105 and rolling of 13, but they will go mow the grass. They will change a cup when it's falling apart. Like, we can live without a superintendent, but without the crew, we can't do anything. So I kind of even like started a hashtag on Twitter a couple of years ago of like crew first, because it's true. Like, the guys are the reason we have a job. And they're super duper important. They do harder work than we do for much less pay. Nobody wants to do this stuff. Like, you could be inside filing papers or flipping burgers, and you work 41 hours and you go home, versus, hey man, I need you to stay 2 hours late. Tough crap. You're making $17 an hour, $16 an hour, and we're going to be in 100 degrees, weed eating a muddy pond bank. Like, that's stupid. Who does this? So that's why I say you got to really appreciate your guys, lead them, treat them right, train them, take care of them. That's what retention comes back, is taking care of them. If it's raining, cloudy out, and it's a Friday and we got nothing going on, kick them out of here. Maybe pay them the rest of the day. I don't know, stuff like that. Not everybody can do that, but just take care of your people.
I love it. More and more good advice, Hunter. Way to go. Is there anything that we've kind of missed, or something that you were really looking forward to kind of promoting or talking about today?
Not really. I think stuff like this is huge for the industry. I've always kind of tried to approach things from what I wish I could tell my younger self. So I'm just a normal guy. There's nothing special about me, but at the same time, I like to always try to take things from a perspective of what I wish I knew. So, to that point as well, like, if there's anybody that I can ever help, or anybody ever needs anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Find me on social media, and I'll, if nothing else, I'll give you some harebrained advice. I think this type of stuff is huge to promote younger people getting in the industry, to help, show what we do, put a face to the names, and just get our industry more exposure. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I got to ask you before we let you go, we've talked about Cass a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Would you encourage, discourage, or just let him go down his own path? Would you be okay with him getting in the business?
I don't know. I kind of want him to be like a multi-billionaire, and I can.
We all have those dreams for our kids,
Option
right?
A.
Like,
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, hey, if you hit the lotto and you need someone to manage your traffic, I'm your guy.
You've done enough for him. He should just buy you a house and let you live the good life. He
Yeah,
shouldn't give you a job.
That's right. No, I don't know. I think if it's something he wants to do, I fully support it. I never want to sway him in whatever he wants to do, as long as he's happy. I think it would be very difficult, just because I would have way too much advice and way too much opinion. No, don't go here. No, go there. Do this, do that. But I don't know. I think he's really smart, way smarter than me. I don't know what he's going to do one day, but he might be like a heavy equipment mechanic, because that's all he wants to do is talk about bulldozers and diggers. But I don't know. I think I would support it. If I could go back over and do it again, I don't think I'd change anything, because I'm extremely blessed, extremely lucky, and fortunate to be where I'm at and everything I got. We all complain, but man, I'm sitting in a really good spot here. So if that's something he chooses to do, and he's good with it, and he's willing to work, like, I think there's easier ways to make a living. But I don't know, we get to see some pretty cool stuff. We get to see those sunrises. We get to have those, like, you won't believe what just happened to me. We get to have those moments, and there's no 2 days the same. So I think I would.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. We appreciate your time. Be sure to say hello to Mr. Rogers out there if he's out there making a site visit sometime this week.
I hate seeing that guy with a paint gun in his hand because we're about to.
Oh, yeah. Damn it! Now what do we have to change?
I've always said one of the most dangerous things in the world is an architect with a paint gun. Just about to step it up. So.
Well, he's a good Ohio boy, so be sure to tell him I said hello if you see him.
Yeah, everyone of Drew's guys have been phenomenal to work with. Worked pretty closely with David Kidd out at Gamble.
Yeah,
David's just like an incredible human, and then Drew has been stellar as well. So maybe it's just an architect thing. These guys are all just really, really super neat guys.
Hunter, man, we can't thank you enough for coming on here today. I think everyone's really going to get a kick out of this. A lot of great advice, and we're really happy we were able to bring you on and tell your story.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it. Again, keep up the great work, and I love seeing it.
Thanks, Hunter. Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, man. Take care.
All right.
Turf Today is also brought to you by Apex 10 by Green Nature. And congratulations to our 3 winners of the Apex 10 giveaway. Harbor Turf Piglet, Harbor Turf Dog _Piglet, Cowherd Kid, and Brad Floyd 27. Congratulations to all 3 people. We will be sending you a DM and getting your address so we can send out all that product. If you want to check out Apex 10, follow them on Instagram at Apex10Life. It was really
Phenomenal.
good.
Just
really good.
Full of insight. 35 years old to have the perspective he has. Unbelievable.
Yeah, incredible. And working 2-3 jobs like that,
I know.
doing it all at the same time, man. Like, good for you, Hunter.
Yeah, that's outstanding. And I noticed the mustache is making a comeback.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to have beards for playoffs, right? We're deep in the playoffs right now, so I haven't been really growing my beard. I just kept the stash going.
Nice. I like it.
Gotta do something, right?
I think it needs to be a full-time deal.
Yeah, just keep it going.
Just keep it going. Keep it going. Yeah, I'm all for it.
I just wish it was a little thicker. Still a little wiry, but I mean, it's there.
You know what? They make some Just for Men. You just, paint a little something on there. You're good to go.
16-year-old me, if he could see this thing, he'd be, oh my God, look at that. Look at you.
I love it. Yeah. Beautiful.
What about
awesome.
you? Anything else going on?
Yeah, man. Heading out for spring break tomorrow.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Break.
Go down to Mexico with the family and a couple of families from kids lacrosse teams. So come back with a suntan or sunburn. We'll see which one. But yeah, it'll be fun. Then we got a big guest next week. So
yes, that'll be
times.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed out. I wasn't able to jump on. I don't want anyone to think that there's bad blood between Trevor and I or anything. But
oh no, I don't think so.
Yeah. All right. Good. Yeah. No, he's a good dude. Yeah, we didn't get home till late from soccer, so I wasn't able to jump in.
Yeah, no, it was all good. It was such a last minute thing, and
Yeah.
it was cool to talk to him. And I wanted
awesome.
to just clear something up too about last week. I mentioned, getting hurt on the golf course, not getting hurt, but something happening on the golf course. A bunch of people reached out to me saying, why would you talk about your coworkers or your boss or something like that? It had nothing to do with my coworkers or my boss. I was at the course by myself, and we had people coming in, contractors coming in to do work, and something happened when I happened to be passing by. So it had nothing to do with my guys. I was just putting it out there that, you need to be diligent and take care of yourself while you're on the course, and that was it. So I would never, I hope people know my character by now, I would never throw my boss or my teammates or coworkers under the bus like that. So it was just it was an outside job, and something happened, and everything was all good.
All right, man. Well, I gotta go get a haircut and knock a couple things out before packing up.
Awesome.
All right, man.
Okay, well, have a good time if I don't chat with you.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, bud.
That's going to do it again for us this week. Thank you so much to Hunter Cooper for making the time for us. Thought that was a fantastic interview. He's been doing great work, not only in his career, but for the people around him. To our sponsors, we appreciate everything that you guys do to make everything happen around here. We could not do it alone, and the show is benefiting from everything you guys are doing to help us. So thank you to Toro, Apex 10, Standard Golf, and the Andersons. There's a lot more on board, and we are very fortunate to have everybody joining us. Get ready, because in a few weeks, potentially a month, we have our first USGA Green Section podcast coming out, which will be really cool. And like we've said before, it's not going to be interfering with this show. It'll be kind of something in addition to. So we're really looking forward to that. It'll be coming up soon. Everybody have a great week. Keep your reels sharp. We got an awesome interview next week with somebody you love.